Hi there, folks, and welcome to this episode of Michael's Backyard Marina. Well, I don't know if I'd call it frustrating. Let's just call it challenging. I've had a little more challenging week this past week, but I'm working hard to get a video out at least every Sunday. And this was going to probably come out late Sunday because I ran into some troubles. My goal was to get work on the carburetors for this 50 horse here. This is what we're going to be playing around with right now, is a 50 horse. And I have the carb kits. I have bushings that came in for all the linkages and stuff that were acting kind of funky. Well, I thought they were kind of funky. But I got so heavily focused now on the throttle itself and the cabling and the stuff like that, and I just wanted to, I'm going to take this video and we're going to focus on just the tiller handle itself. I know that's going to sound kind of boring, but I've got some things that I think is going to help make this better. I just priced a new throttle cable for this, and they're out there. You can find them $140 for a throttle cable, and it's like a 34.5-inch long throttle cable. Well, that's expensive, so I'm going to go through and see if I can make... There's nothing wrong with this one other than there's some plastic rubbed through on the housing on the outside. I'm going to recover that up, but and maybe protect it. The inner lining I think is pretty good shape, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to discover if that is or isn't the case. But there's actually way more to a throttle handle than a person would actually think there is. You know, you just grab the grip and, rip it, right? Well, when they're grip it, doesn't move as smoothly as it should, well, you got to dig into that, because last thing you want to do is fight a throttle. Now, this one had a situation where the throttle itself, when you turned it, it got almost to like 3/4 throttle, and then when you go to wide open throttle, it had a lot of resistance there, and it would come through it. But the bad part is all the other mechanisms on the side here were not playing well because of all the old, nasty black grease that was in there that was creating actually a lot of drag. It wasn't moving as freely as the bushing should. And then inside that piece is over there. I'll show you. Let me just take your camera right over here, show you some of the stuff and all the exploded view of this stuff, and then we'll get back to the tiller part. So what you're seeing is a couple of carbs here that's torn apart that were actually in really good shape. But we've got a couple of the linkage pieces here, and this is the bushing, and this is the... I mean, you drag your finger across that grease, and it's more sticky than it is than slippery. And grease lubrication needs to be slippery. Here's an example of the brand new bearings. I bought several of them just to keep in mind. We'll get back to this in another video, but that's not what this video right now is about. But more to come. Of course, this button is about this video. That button is for the tiller handle. Let's go back over and look at some of the things I'm doing. Now, a few of you that follow my channel have asked several times about, hey, when are you going to get back to that noise that Mercury was making? And, well, this can be a piece of it here. So I'll play a little clip right here while I'm talking on how this thing is making this high-pitched beep. It sounded like a flywheel. Quite a few of you left some comments, so I'm going to just clue you in real quick on that situation. And I'll probably repeat myself again when I'm playing around with that Johnson over there, because I had to get this out of the tank. But once I put the cover and everything back on, because I fired it up and all of a sudden it wasn't making so much noise anymore, and then all of a sudden it came back. Well, 2 strokes idle kind of radically, a little bit. I'm almost confident now, once I put the cover back on, it localized the sound and I could hear it down on the bottom. And so I'm pretty sure that high-pitched shaft harsh pinging noise is the actual slop that's in this drive shaft. This drive shaft is less worn than the one that was in it, but still got wear and back and forth slop there. And I'm pretty confident that noise is coming from the drive shaft, jockeying back and forth a little bit as it's trying to spin around and catch up with itself and different things like that. So we're still going to take this thing when the water thaws out. We're going to put this on the old new John boat with the jack plate and all that fun stuff on it. And we're going to just run this thing, and it's either going to go or blow. But I'm pretty sure the ting-ting sound is the drive shaft. Under a load, I'm almost guaranteed I'll never even hear it, because it's just going to be, turning and keeping pressure on it. The only way to truly get rid of that sound is replace the drive shaft. And I ain't kidding you, try to find a drive shaft for a 70s Mercury, good luck. And try to find one that isn't worn out, double good luck, because the one that was in here was worn half in two on the splines. The one I replaced it with was worn only about, let's say, 5/8 in two. So it had a little less wear than the other one, so that's why it's in here. And anyway, hopefully that might clue you in on why yours is making that kind of funky noise, because there's absolutely nothing in the top end that was making contact. I stripped it all the way down to the flywheel, even looked over the flywheel, even checked the flywheels for cracks, and that wasn't the case. It's got to be that drive shaft. That's the only thing that makes sense. All right, back to the tiller handle. Okay, what you see here right now is this tiller handle is blown completely apart. I've taken everything off of it. All the wiring's out of it, the throttle cable's out of it. When I say wiring, it's just a kill switch. But I'm going to take you step by step putting it back together, because it took me a second or two to figure out how to take it apart effectively. And I did a good job of taking it apart. I only removed one piece that I shouldn't have, and it's not going to hurt anything. But that way you'll see exactly how yours needs to come apart if you need to do any service work on yours. And unless yours is brand new, I'll guarantee you need to do some service work on it, because dust, dirt, grime, and everything else eventually works its way into everything and can start causing you some problems. All right, first things first. What we have here is the throttle cable completely and 100% removed from the tiller handle. And this thing actually moves pretty smooth now. And I'm going to show you what I did. It wasn't moving too bad before, but I wanted to make it better. I wanted to put, this thing actually moves really nice now. I wanted to put some lube, come back here. I wanted to put some lube in the cable. And there, how do you get lube all the way down the cable? Well, I'm going to show you what I did here. And it's going to be kind of, let's just say it's a good old redneck modification here. Redneck ingenuity. I'll take that all day long. Let's get in here really close and I'll show you some details. Now, I'm hoping I can capture all this for you folks. What I've got is my pressure tester that I use on the gearboxes, and it has a quick connect right here, right? So I can disconnect this, and now I can put any kind of liquids I want right into here, which will go right into here. This is a threaded end that was on it. I've got some of these little constant tension spring clamps, hose clamps. I've got one on each end here. And right here, I've got this, so I heated it up, and it fits over the end of the throttle cable. And what you'll find on the end of these throttle cables, on this one in particular, is there's these little rubber caps that go right over the end to help seal up and keep debris and dirt out of your cable. On this end, you can see I've removed it. I think you can see that okay. I've removed it off of this one. It just pops right over here and it's hooked into place, but it acts like a little wiper seal. Now, as you can see, everything down here is nice and dry. What I'm going to do, right, wrong, or different, I'm going to put this WD-40 Specialist Water Resistant Silicone Lubricant. Multi-surface, quick drying, protects against rust. Now, what I like about the quick drying part is it's more of a dry lube that's going to work inside here, and it won't attract dust. Because sometimes where you go fishing, the old roads are not all paved. But I'm just sticking this hose down in here, and I'm just going to put a whole bunch of lube. That should be plenty. Now I've got this pressure regulator here set to just 10 psi. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in here. And what that's going to do is it's going to put pressure, 10 pounds of pressure on this line. And I've got all the lube right down here going into the liner. We'll just let that sit there and pump. Keeps pressure in there. And what you see happening on this end is this pumping that lube out. Now I can work this back and forth. And see, I've got that lube coming out all over. And that way I can see it bubbling out around here. That way I know this lube is going all the way around inside this whole cable. And then that lube will dry, and it'll have a nice dry lube effect to it, and I'll be golden. Now what I can do is go ahead and I'll take this little pressure clamp here off, hose clamp off, slide her back out of the way. Take this back off maybe. Okay, might have to do that off camera here. There she goes, she slid right off, no problem. Nice thing about what I did with here is just that same groove was on this guy, and it really bit in there and easily holds 10 pounds of pressure. Next step's going to be we'll go ahead and throw this little rubber piece back on and get it snapped back into place like that. We'll also do the same thing on the other end, and they fit really nice. And now our cable, I would call it completely serviced, and I'm happy with that. The other part I wanted to show you on this cable, I hope you can see it here, is where the casing got rubbed through, and you can see the strands inside. But because none of that spray or liquid I put in there came out through here, it tells me my inner liner is not damaged. So I'm going to go ahead and put some more protectant on here. So this will be protected a lot longer, make this $140 worth of cable just last longer. I may still buy a replacement to have it on hand because I intend to keep this outboard for quite a while, and eventually things break. Now one of the tricky parts here, this looks, I got to clean this up some more. That's just, we got to make this cleaner. I'm going to go ahead and pull these wires on through here. Hopefully I can get them back through. Maybe, maybe not. I'm going to take this inside, get me some dishwashing soap and some toothbrush, and I can get that thing cleaned up real nice. Might as well start off as clean as we possibly can. I've also got a couple other plastic pieces here. We'll do the same thing too. We'll just get that all, we'll get this all cleaned up looking nice. So at least start off fresh, and when I put lube to it, it won't pick up any grit. We have everything expertly cleaned up now. Got all that dirt and dried on crud on there off of it. I've refished the wires back through here. Now inside here, the purpose for this tab right here is to keep all the wires trapped and away from the mechanism. So when you're looking at this, you want this to be, these wires to be behind here. There's also only one notch. You see right here, this little dude right here? There's one notch right here in this handle where that fits. So you want to make sure all the wires are behind and trapped, and slide that right in, right like that. That way, that stuff is where it belongs, and where this is going to be moving back and forth won't come in contact with the wiring at all. That's very important. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and see if we can fish this thing back up through here. Get your wires over to the side out of the way. Basically, you're just sliding this in to snap it into here. Now, I'm just thinking. So we should be able to snap that right up in there. Don't get your wires pinched. And pop that back into place. And then inside here, you'll see that moving back and forth there. When it comes time to reassemble that, I'll show you what goes on there, because we got this little pin. Maybe I'll go ahead and show you some of it here. Get this thing to behave for me. This pin goes through here. And sticks through on either side like that. And then you've got these little rollers, guides, whatever you want to call them, that actually go on either side here. So that sits in there like that, and this will move back and forth when you put this piece on. So once you got this guy on here, one of those rollers fit in the one side, and then the other one will fit. And you want these little tabs here pointing toward the cable. Okay, after I did a little bit of fitting, I realized there was a major error going on where this little guy here, if I can get it off the magnet, this little guy here goes through the cable itself, through the cable end, and then these little, the little smaller diameter rides in there. Well, if there was a bushing that was in there before, it was gone. So what I ended up doing, as you can see here, maybe you can if I get it out here. This little pin, I made some little bushings that go in here. Plus, this was only, what was it, 3/16 wide of a groove. I ended up cutting it out to 5/16 wide because right here, you can see it right here, there's a lot of wear right there. Make sure my camera shot's there, yep. You can see the wear. I only got rid of about half the wear on one side and most of it on the other side, but that was worn out pretty bad, and what that was doing, it was causing a lot of rubbing and binding when you tried to move it back and forth. So I ended up making this little bushing here, and it'll fit inside here. It'll get, let me see if I can get a kind of idea, but it'll be in here like this, and it'll ride back and forth with plenty of grease. Also, this little capper-do here sits right on top of there. So that's just how that assembly goes together. Try not to lose any of my pieces. So that sits in there like this and goes back and forth. And now this thing will move freely back and forth with no bindage because there's almost like a roller bearing in there now that wasn't there before, which is going to make it very nice. And with the cable movement, let me back you off a little bit here. And on the inside of this piece is where these little caps ride. They sit right down in here and go forward and back through this groove when you rotate the throttle. Back and forth. So now that we got everything that shouldn't be binding, we're also going to put plenty of lube in here because these go on. This little groove here goes right here, and then this will rotate back and forth, and as you rotate that back and forth, it pulls the cable in and out. So kind of a neat little deal, but also scary as crap to work on because it is plastic. You crack or break one piece, and you're pretty much done. And you can't just go out and buy this piece that I've seen anywhere. I've seen where you can buy the whole tiller part, you know, and they're going to cost you anywhere from $350 to $600, and I just cringe at the thought of that. But the good news is, you know, this little tab here, to remove this, you have to bend this in. And this is supposed to be some really good old material because I flexed it in quite a ways to get it out. And I'll show you how I took that off toward the end when I'm putting it back together. So now, what's on the agenda? We need to get this wiring back through here again. Get this cable back in, and then we can reroute the cable up onto the outboard. And then we'll be back to, let's just say, getting closer back to square one. So we're going to go ahead and feed this back through. And there's just enough room for that plug to go through one wire at a time, so that's what we'll do. So now that's back in. Should be able to get the wires back on the right side of where they're supposed to be here. There, that's back in place, wires through. Now I want to take and bring the cable back through. When you bring this back through, you're trying to keep the wires from getting pinched up. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, I'm not going to lie. Now that we got this piece reassembled, we're going to go ahead and get this slid back through. Now I had to take this bolt out in order to allow me enough room to come up through. Otherwise it won't quite fit. There. Now that I've got this all routed in here, I can stick this bolt back in. Put a little grease on it and we'll just snug it back down. That feels pretty good. Don't want it too loose. We've got our cable routed back in here now. We've got it where we can put it back in place, which is great. Now we want to finish assembling this part here. This is where it gets a little fun. This is where it's also going to get a little messy. Because on your handle, there's these two things that pop into place. Those are actually on here. So when this is back in there, this will slide back into place. This pulled apart really hard. I'm going to go ahead and cover this pin in grease. That slid back into place. Now when I put my little black bushings that it made up here, put those right inside here and put grease on them so they don't fall out on me. Here I'm just using some Lucas Marine grade grease here. Now I'm also going to put grease around these grooves, around this whole surface where everything has to rotate and slide on. It's just going to help it all out. I'm going to put grease inside these grooves here, just to help everything move. There's one. The grease is also going to help hold this in place while I'm putting it together. So now we've got that all put together. I should be ready to slide this back on and snap it back into place. I thought it was worth showing you how I pulled the handle off, because that's kind of key, because if you don't get this part done, you can't do the rest of it. What I did is I've got my regular little 2 1/4 inch or 2 1/2 inch C-clamp, and I've got a little pin on either side, and I can screw this in together, and it compresses those 2 pins inside there. It allows you to pop this off once you get them screwed in far enough. And they do make a special tool. As you can see, that popped right off. And those things stayed in place for me, which was great. Now I'm going to put this on in the right direction so that my white line is showing up in the right spot here. And then we'll just snap it right back on. Just like that. So now my white line's where I can see it. Now this marking's all gone here, but I'll be able to put some, start position, idle, wide open. Well, folks, I hope you found that informative and helpful. Is it a pain in the butt to do this job? Absolutely is. But I had, we had some magnificent results. I can now roll this thing open and closed. I know that none of my throttle issues are going to be involved because of this handle. It's hard to explain how resistant this was to rotating before I did this and how nice it is now. So it's going to make things so much nicer. The other thing that's going to be nice is when I clean up all the other pieces and put new bushings in it and fresh grease in that. I expect things to roll on so much easier than it did before. So I have a feeling some of the issues, the gentleman that had this before me, he wasn't able to roll that throttle full on because you couldn't roll it on. I couldn't roll it full on throttle Couldn't do it. Full throttle wasn't going to happen in the condition that it was in. But now, by fixing this and fixing the other components, I'll be able to roll that thing on full throttle, you know, just blip it pretty quick and easy without a lot of resistance. We got a lubed up cable now. We've got lubed up handle. And when this is all lubed up, it's going to be perfect. And I got to get me some little tiny hoses here. They're part of the primer system. We'll get those. And next step is going to be going after that carburetor. Carburetor and all the linkages and everything, and getting all those cleaned up. And, you know, basically this thing just had a lot of age on it. It's tired. It's been around a while, right? And but I'm pretty tickled with that so far. I know this seems like a lot of video for just a tiller handle, but sometimes the problems start right here. And, you know, then it just creates, this one had a lot of wear in it. That wear I showed you before in those grooves, that was a significant amount of wear. Now I've got those little spacers in there with little rollers in there. Whether it had it from the factory or not, my goodness, talk about a world of difference. I can pull on this, and I can pull on this end this way pretty hard and give it a lot of resistance, and this still rolls so easy. I can actually move the handle just by doing this, which is amazing, right? All right, folks, thanks for watching. I appreciate your patronage on the video. Watching, give me the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Tell all your friends, share the video. Let's continue to grow this channel. We got more to do here. I've got, there again, I gave you a little idea on the Mercury 20 horse I have over here. I've got the Johnson 99 with the big secret that's over in the tank right now. I got it all back in there and it's running and pumping water and doing what it's supposed to do, but it ain't running right. And I think I have a reason why it might not be running right, but I'm going to do a little more investigating, and I'll get back to you on that one. That'll be a whole nother video on that joker. But you guys treat each other nice. And remember, if it ain't broke, fix it till it is. And I'll see you on the next video. This is Michael, and I'm out.